Hi everyone, my name is Emer Maguire and I really love communication. I mean it, I am obsessed. I love communicating in any and all ways possible. I create communication trainings for companies and individuals to become more competent and confident communicators. I'm also an international award-winning science communicator, which means I engage the general public with the reasons I think science is so cool. I'm also an Irish award-winning BBC presenter and broadcaster, a 5-star multi-podcast creator, writer and presenter, and I'm a 4 times TEDx speaker. I'm a musical comedian with a sold-out Edinburgh Fringe run, and finally, I'm a qualified and practicing speech and language therapist. So when I say I'm communication obsessed, I mean it. But I'm not telling you all these things to brag or to espouse that I'm a great communicator, and I always have been, because that isn't true. The thing is, I used to really struggle with communication. I used to be very shy. I used to feel awkward if anyone looked at me, and I never wanted anyone to ask me anything. I didn't know how to suggest ideas in front of others, and I could barely contain my embarrassment if I was asked to give an answer in school, even though I always knew I had the right one. I didn't have great communication skills, and I thought communication skills had to be entirely natural. I thought good communicators were born and not made, but I was wrong. And through the years, I've improved my own communication skills, and I now use those skills to help others discover their voice and become the best version of themselves in a communication context. For this project, you've all put together super teams, the best and brightest minds. And teamwork is key in this project, which is why we wanted minds from all areas. Together, we can achieve more. And I want the basis of that wonderful team that you have to be communication. Take Michael Jordan, widely regarded as the greatest basketball player of all time. For some, possibly the greatest sports superstar of all time. 6-time NBA champion, 6-time NBA Finals Most Valuable Player, Hall of Fame inductee. The list of his achievements is exhaustive. But he never did any of it alone. He needed a team. And a team is only as good as the sum of its parts. In 1992, the US put together their Olympic basketball squad. Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Scottie Pippen, all the big, huge names from that era on one team. But Michael Jordan was still the biggest. And despite this, they didn't call it the Michael Jordan team. They called it the Dream Team. And the Dream Team was full of talent. They went on to win gold at the Olympics. But as Michael Jordan says, talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. I want you to think, you've got this far based on your talent, but now the championships are about to begin, and you need to use teamwork to your advantage. Appreciate that, you've all got your individual talent, but there's no point being Michael Jordan if there's no dream team around you. And I want you to achieve dream team status through a really solid basis of great communication skills. Studies show that teams who communicate complete projects more quickly and more efficiently. Effective communicators are more adept at fostering trust with others, and good communication skills are able to be used to reduce conflict and more easily resolve issues. Good communication skills can actually create better working relationships, and it can include higher levels of engagement between team members. Teams with advanced communication skills can more easily generate ideas, they can have much clearer direction, and they show higher levels of innovation. You also need to remember this project that you're about to embark on is so interdisciplinary. Being able to communicate outside your own field is incredibly important, and this requires a little bit of direction. Cross-sector communication is key. Communication is the lifeline of any organisation is a wonderful quote by Mohanty in 2018, and I honestly believe that to be true. You cannot have a successful organisation without good communication. You cannot bring a wonderful, sensational, ambitious idea to fruition without good communication. You cannot be the best version of yourself within your organisation without good communication. We're asking people to endeavour to reach 66 million people, and that might seem impossible to some, but to me, You can't even attempt to do that or even think about doing that without a team full of participants with solid communication skills. I want to inspire you to use your inbuilt powers of communication to increase your chances of delivering an amazing idea to the world. You already have wonderfully talented teammates. You already have powerful organisations behind you. You already have creative, radical, beautiful ideas. You need to build those things further on a steady foundation of communication. This is a really wide-reaching participatory project, and not many things connect us more than our uniquely human skill to communicate elaborate ideas. But to communicate well within a team, you first need to understand how to become a confident communicator yourself. There are a few things that I want to cover that are relevant to your journey. I want to talk about the basics of good communication, successful conversations, everyone having a seat at the table, team roles, being assertive and resolving conflict using your language, and most importantly, listening. So let's start with the basics. There are so many little things that you can remember that are almost like a checklist of basic communication skills. Things you've probably heard all the time. Good eye contact, smile, be approachable, include everyone, consider your style of speech, be clear and concise, reflect confidence in your posture, and one thing that is definitely overlooked, just be nice. But I think we need to delve a little deeper into a couple of these. Firstly, I want to talk about eye contact. Eye contact is one of the earliest survival techniques that we humans have. In evolution, babies who really locked eyes with caregivers built a bond which meant that they would definitely be well looked after and fed. Now, humans are the only primates with whites in our eyes that can be seen, and that makes it really obvious where you're looking. The thing is, it also makes it really obvious where you aren't looking. Eye contact ignites the brains of humans and it really connects us. We use our eyes to communicate, and we always have. Historically, this has helped the human species. It's helped us cooperate with each other. It's helped us survive. It's helped us make the world what it is today. We use increased eye contact when we're speaking to someone that we admire. The closeness of a relationship can be judged by eye contact. We use really poor eye contact if we are embarrassed or if we're lacking confidence or even if we're just sad. Now, Bill Clinton is someone who is famous for having an eye contact that is intimate and powerful and engaging. And apparently some people who had a little bit of a distaste for him before they met him eventually met him in person and suddenly were captivated by him. And references to his eye contact being intimate, intense, engaging, powerful are really well known. Even one of his major rivals, Newt Gingrich, said that Clinton was one of the most charming and effective people he had ever negotiated with. Now that's what his rival said about him. People think his infiltrating eye contact was almost like his superpower. So if you want to be interested, you want to show your team that you are engaged, remember to use good eye contact. Also, don't forget that something as simple as a smile can help with positive team interactions. And it's a nonverbal that I feel is pretty important in communication. The problem is we sometimes forget to smile, and I know I do. It weirdly takes a little bit of practice to smile, especially if you're in a situation where you're under pressure. And you might be under pressure in these new teams coming up with these big ideas. But the one thing that we do know is that smiling is contagious. And there's a great Swedish study where participants were shown a picture of people with different emotions, and then they were told which emotion to portray themselves. Now, when they were shown a picture of someone smiling, they were asked to frown, but they didn't. They couldn't help smiling in response to the smiling picture. That's how contagious it is. Now, that is the kind of energy we want in any team. As well as improving your own mood, smiling actually improves the mood of others around you. In the medical journal Neuropsychology, a study showed that smiling at someone activates the reward centers of their brain. So if you smile, they feel rewarded. And if they smile, you feel rewarded. Win-win. Smile with your teammates, create positive interactions. Communication-wise, consider your style of speech. You don't want to go so fast that you're unintelligible. What's the rush? But if you have a style of speech that is naturally fast or naturally quick, like I do, being from Northern Ireland, it can be okay as long as you're clear and concise and you're not mumbling. You can choose a bit of a slower rate, but do not go so slow that your listeners find it patronising. There's seriously nothing harder to listen to. There really is a bit of a fine balance with that. And above all, clarity and concise content is key. Do consider your pitch, but try and speak in your natural pitch, because otherwise it can sound really artificial. Pause at the end of sentences so listeners can take in what you're saying, and try and use the same pattern as you would use in natural conversation. Body language is a massive part of communication. I'm sure you've heard that so many times before, but just to recap, stand up straight. Taking up more space in the room makes it look like you want to be there, like you own your space. I like to stand with my feet hip width apart because I feel like it's a little bit more grounding. If you look like you're trying to make yourself smaller with your arms folded in, or you're hugging yourself, you're kind of crouched forward, it looks like you're trying to hide and you don't want to be seen. Be seen. You know, especially in a team scenario, represent your sector, represent yourself, be seen. Back straight, shoulders relaxed and back a little bit. Make sure your chin is straight and up. You're looking forward. What's the point in looking down? You can't make eye contact then, you can't really be heard. Make sure that you let people know you've got something great to say, make people hear it. If you're in a conversation with a teammate, lean forward a little. That can show that you're interested in what they're saying, and it also gives them the attention that they deserve. Use your hands to emphasize your message, but try not to fidget. You will seem nervous. And these movements can really distract from what you're saying. They take away from your message. Fidget less and focus more. Now, whenever I talk about these things, I want you to keep something in mind. Inclusivity and neurodiverse colleagues. Neurodiversity is the idea that neurological differences should be recognised and respected. So for example, neurodiverse colleagues might have autism or ADHD or dyslexia, and workplaces are generally built to suit neurotypical people. So some skills that I mentioned may be difficult for neurodiverse team members, for example, the eye contact or particular aspects of the body language. So I want you to consider neurodiversity within your team. Make sure you're using concise, clear instructions, use unambiguous language, avoid things like slang or nuance or sarcasm, and don't always interpret reduced eye contact as not listening. Understand that there may be some difficulties, things like social anxiety or difficulty handling criticism, or maybe even an unwillingness to share or collaborate. I really just want you to keep that in mind as I'm going through here, and always consider being inclusive in your team and think about neurodiversity. The main thing we need in our communication in teams is successful conversations, but we can sometimes feel a little bit anxious having conversations in a team setting. The National Institute for Careers, Education and Counselling decided to figure out what made people feel more comfortable during conversations. They really wanted to know if there was a particular setting that could help you have a successful conversation. And they asked people who worked in all kinds of sectors a few questions. They said, when did you feel there was a time that you had a successful conversation? What happened in that conversation? What difference was made to you as a result of that conversation? So I want you to have a think about those questions yourself and really consider successful conversations after this presentation. What means a successful conversation to you? That study found that helpful conversations were more likely to occur in an informal setting. I like to think of it as conversations in a cupboard because this is one of the examples that were given. You might be able to better explain your idea over a casual coffee or in a relaxed space, as opposed to sitting at a conference table in a more intimidating environment. They also found that if a conversation was successful, a one-off conversation could be enough, and that informal settings gave the communication an illusion of safety, which made it a good space to share ideas. It found in these settings that people are more likely to be assertive, and also the conversations that were successful were really well timed. Fast conversations can be another way of ensuring that your conversations are successful. It can help you plan focused conversations in different situations, and it can help you get the outcome that you want from the conversation. Coaching guru Pemberton believes that the FAST technique can be used to really guide an exchange. So think fast. F, you want to have a focused, purposeful conversation. Clearly state the facts. Be direct but polite and respectful, and listen to the other person's perspective. A is the action encouraged by the conversation. You need the conversation to move towards your goal and towards your team goal. S is for solution, so allow that conversation to be part of creating a solution. Offer ideas as to how situations could be resolved. And T is for timely and time-effective communication and conversation, which is incredibly important in any team. I also want to mention giving all team members equal status. Your teams have people from different backgrounds, people of different ages, different levels of experience, new talent alongside established talent. But every single person is equal in the team. All team members must embrace this fact. They must use their communication skills to communicate their own worth and to communicate their understanding of the worth of others. Elizabeth Warren, United States Senator, very cleverly states, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're probably on the menu. I take that to mean that those who are not present or who do not take up their seat and push for their place will have no representation during decision making. Your voice will not be heard. If you aren't present, how can you communicate anything? If you're on the menu, you might be handed out tasks that don't really suit your skills. You might not fully understand your role. You might be left behind. Use your communication skills. Be Elizabeth Warren. Take your seat, consider the options, give your opinions, make your decisions, leave feeling satisfied. Also know that while taking up your own seat, you do not close off space for others. Make the table bigger, order more chairs. Treat everyone with respect, regardless of their status, their newness in the team, their experience or lack thereof. Speak to the CEO of your team the same way as you speak to the newest, most inexperienced member. As Einstein says, I speak to everyone in the same way, whether he is the garbage man or the president of the university. Keep that all in mind while considering inclusivity. Remember, everyone in your team is an individual, and this must be appreciated and celebrated when considering their communication skills. Another skill that is really important to have in a team is assertiveness. But being assertive is a bit of a balancing act. Be assertive, but not aggressive. Be assertive, but not passive. So assertiveness is asserting what you need while still being considerate of what others need. So get your point across firmly, but be fair and empathetic. Key things to remember when being assertive is to be positive, even if you're talking about something negative. Realize that no matter how much you want to, you cannot control the behaviour of others around you. Be specific and clear in what you want or what you need, and most importantly, do all this while being respectful, direct and polite. There are actually a few language techniques that you can use to be a little more assertive in your communication. Use I to get your point across strongly. For example, I feel that we need to address this. I feel that this must be the next step. Use words like want and will instead of could or should. Stick to your message. And also, if you need to, if you're going to have a difficult conversation, script the conversation in your head on a piece of paper and remember a couple of key things. How you see things, how you feel, what you need, and the outcome of the conversation if you get what you want. One thing to remember, to an extent, asserting your needs may create conflict even if you've taken into account the needs of others. But remember, conflict is normal. It's a celebration of differences. And in conflict, again, you can use your language as a tool. Most people trying to find the source of conflict ask why. Why is there a problem here? That can be important, but it's pretty restrictive. It can lead to better understanding, but it's problem focused. It might allow you to understand the problem, but it doesn't really help you solve it. What, how, when, where are more important words to use. They're really solution focused and they allow you to determine action. So, for example, if a team member called you up, they were really irritated, you can't fully understand the problem. Instead of asking, why are you calling? Or why are you upset? Try, what can I do to help? What are you most concerned about? How can I make you feel better? When did this happen? When would you like to resolve this? Or where would it be easiest for us to start? One of the things that I think is pretty important to communicate within the team is really clear roles. Each team member has their own responsibility. And if people don't know what is expected of them, the team isn't functional. If one expert can't see the wider goal of the team isn't functional. If one team member is frustrated by a lack of communication, the team isn't functional. A team with good communication and clear team rules is a team that can excel. I talked earlier about Michael Jordan, and I talked about how without a team around him, there is no Michael Jordan, greatest of all time. And I'm going to come back to that in a second, because there are really clear roles within a team that can be applied to any team. And there's a researcher called Dr. Belbin who studied teamwork and really famously identified 9 types of behaviours that are known as the Belbin team roles. Which one of these are you? And can you mould your communication skills to suit your role? Firstly, we have got the resource investigator. Now this is our inquisitive team member who might be really enthusiastic and outgoing, but a little bit forgetful. We've got the team worker who's the glue that keeps you all together. They're cooperative but possibly indecisive, and they don't like making unpopular decisions. This is the middle child. This is me. This is the peacemaker. We've got the coordinator, and they manage the team. They're really confident and they're great at clarifying goals, but they can over-delegate. We've got the plant, a very creative and unconventional problem solver, but they can be a little bit preoccupied with their craft and absent-minded. We've got the monitor, evaluator. They're logical and impartial, and their strategic nature is a plus, but they can be a little bit uninspiring. We've also got the specialists. So these are our team experts, super knowledgeable, but their contribution can have a really narrow focus. We've got the shaper who drives the team to keep going, but they can actually come off as aggressive due to the sheer amount of drive that they have. We've got the implementer who is our practical, efficient planner who can lack flexibility. We've also got the completer finisher, otherwise known as the quality control team member, a conscientious, anxious perfectionist. So think over those and think which one are you, and can you see how you need to use your communication skills to kind of break out of your role and gel with the rest of the team. If we even take a few of these and apply them to the Chicago Bulls in the 90s, Michael Jordan's team, and we'll focus on arguably the most famous 3, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and my favourite, Dennis Rodman. To me, Michael Jordan is clearly the shaper. He was famous for how dynamic he was, how ambitious he was, how he thrived under pressure, how he challenged his teammates. Yes, he was incredibly talented, but he pushed his team, not just himself. Sometimes he pushed people to the point of offending them in true shaper style. Are you the Michael Jordan on the team? Or maybe you're Scottie Pippen? Scottie Pippen was always Michael Jordan's right-hand man, the only player who was part of all 6 of Michael Jordan's NBA championship winning teams. He was second to Michael Jordan in scoring, but he actually outranked him in a lot of other stats. I mean, the man was incredibly talented, but his main strength was that he was a team player. Phil Jackson, their famous coach from the time, said Scottie was the voice of the team. He kept the team on the same page. He talked his teammates through different situations, and because of that, he was vital. In Belbin's team rules, Scottie was the classic team worker, using his versatility to figure out what the team needed to do. He was cooperative and diplomatic. Then we've got Dennis Rodman, the famously alternative, incredibly cool presence on the team. Dennis Rodman was actually nicknamed the Worm, and he was called this because despite not being the tallest player, he had a reputation of always getting the ball in these big, busy, strong groups of players, wriggling himself in and out of tight situations. In other words, he was an incredibly creative player and unconventional problem solver. In Belbin's team rules, he was clearly the plant. Creative, imaginative, free-thinking, with the downside of ignoring fine details and being a little bit absent-minded. That's not surprising given the fact that he infamously missed practice during the NBA Finals, and he was actually once late to a stadium opening because he was dyeing his hair. I don't know about any of you, but that could totally be me. Individually, these three could not win championships. No way. But together with their teammates and coach, they were part of one of the world's greatest sports teams. So whether it's sports or this project, you can figure out your role and how to communicate best within it. Finally, I want to talk to you about possibly the most important part of communication, listening. As George Bernard Shaw says, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. And there are so many types of non-listening that are really detrimental to a team. False listening, where you're kind of feigning concentration but not taking in the message. Listening to interrupt, where you're just waiting to jump in with your points and your thoughts and your opinions. Selective listening, where you're filtering to hear the bits that support your beliefs or bits that are particularly interesting to you. Or attack listening, where you're listening closely for an opportunity to attack or ambush the speaker. So take stock next time you're listening to see if you're doing any of these. Instead, we need to use respectful listening. Make the person feel heard. Pay attention. Be genuine. Put down your phone. Look up from your laptop. Encourage them. Clarify their message. Have you got it right? Summarize what they've told you. They'll know you're listening. Be empathetic. A good listener creates the basis for an excellent communicator. So as you go forward through the R&D process, I want you to bear in mind everything I've talked about today. Great communication will be the foundation of your team. And from great communication comes other points of view, sparks of imagination, ideas. And once you've had an exchange with someone that's kind of really lit a fire under you and what you want to achieve within your team, it's easy to appreciate just how important communication is. As Anne Morrow Lindbergh says, good communication is just as stimulating as black coffee and just as hard to sleep after. I know I mentioned at the start that I'm a musical comedian, I'm a musician, so I really wanted to end on this wonderful quote by H.E. Lucock. No one can whistle a symphony, it takes a whole orchestra to play it. I thought that was a really beautiful description of the importance of teamwork. Each of you have your part to play. Play it well, but use your communication skills to ensure you're playing together and in harmony. I'm Emer Maguire. Thank you for listening and good luck.